Hello, Libby Gray here, back with you to start the 7th segment of my little series on how to call follow spots. Today I am in a Holiday Inn in Raleigh, where we're about to play the Walnut Creek Amphitheater. Summer tour continues apiece. We've had some great shows lately. We played Virginia Beach Amphitheater, a favorite of mine, and Charlotte, both of whom had excellent, just tremendous spot ups. On time for their call, if not early. The shows were flawless. It was just a lovely time. And also those two venues maintain their equipment impeccably. All spots working in absolute tip-top shape. And then we played Nashville. Moving on. Today I'd like to cover 3 things with you briefly. The first is the follow spot script. Then we'll touch briefly on how to manage really large numbers of spots in your call. And finally, trust spots, which are a even rarer breed than live spot directors, but you may run into them. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give you some pointers on that whole story. So to start out with, I'll harken back to my friends on the big Motley Leopard tour, which is out, of course, also this summer of 2022. And they recently played Wrigley Field in Chicago. They have 18 moving lights as follow spots on a track system. I can't drop names because I don't know whose track system they're using, but they have their spots built out on towers out in the field. And when they played Wrigley Field, they were not allowed to use that system. No moving lights, no towers, no tracking systems, old school. They were required to use the exceedingly skilled local Union Chicago spot ops and the house spots of Wrigley Field. And one of them had an extremely detailed follow spot script prepared and enjoyed a seamless show. So what is a follow spot script? It's the thing we borrow from theater. A lot of LDs can go for years and years and years and never even run across one, but you should write one for your show. Just like a theater script is a detail of actions that are going to happen on stage with a stage manager calling lighting cues, you need a script that is based on the actions happening on your stage, except instead of calling out cues to a light board operator or a soundboard operator, you are calling out cues to your follow spots. The script can be arranged any number of ways. It depends on what's most important in your show. Some scripts are arranged as a linear list of musical items. This will be fundamentally necessary if you're doing a show that's mostly instrumental music. Some of them are based on dialogue, or in this case, lyrics, just as theater scripts are based on dialogue. And some of them are a hybrid. My personal script uses both. At the top of a song, it may say preset and then music up. But then the next cue line from me may say, in a particular word, this is the change that happens. So you can also include a column that has your board numbers on it if you want to very precisely lock your verbal follow spot cues to an exact board cue. If they happen to line up perfectly, then by all means use the board cue. However, they may not. So relying on the actual action on stage, whether it is lyrical or musical, or even choreography. Guitar player runs up on top of the set and starts a solo. That can be a notation in your spot script. May not exactly correspond to a lyric or a board cue. But you have to look at your show, and for every spot change, there's clearly something happening on stage that is generating the spot change, that is worthy of the spot cue. So whatever that is, make a note of it, and then list what the spot cue is. You are going to want to do that in shorthand. You're certainly trying to make this script so someone walking in and running your show cold can follow the cues. So you don't want to be spelling everything out, but you also don't want to use too many words. Shorthand I use that any LD worth their salt would understand in a second. This is just an example, okay? A page would have your song title on it, something going on here, desk cues maybe, but in this case, these 2 lines read, music up. The first one is, stand by all spots on home targets, fading up in 2 counts, go. Very straightforward there. Second one, verse 1, stand by, spots 1, 2, and 3 for frame 3. Go. So that's the kind of notation you would use. I was taught the standby with the / tricks by my friend David Finley. I have other people, notably Jeff Ravitz, who are excellent at musical notation. And of course, having a theater degree, I lean on dialogue and lyrics because of that. So, to figure out what's most important, write your spot script. It'll take some time. You know, you got to sit there and write down the notes, but you should have it printed on paper. Don't leave it in your laptop, because it's there in an emergency in case you are not. And if you are not there, there's a fair chance your laptop is not there, which isn't going to help the person who has to walk into your shoes. LDs miss planes, they step off curbs and bonk their heads, they have heart attacks, they unexpectedly test positive for COVID. You need a succession plan, and that means handing off your show in a documented format so that somebody else can step into your shoes. Now, it's not going to be a perfect show, and it won't even be a super clean show, but it will be a show. It won't be just some random, rando punting through on their desk. You want to be able to create your show even if you're not there. So give it some thought, come up with a spot script, print it, stick it in a binder, in a workbox, in the production workbox, at front of house, somewhere. Just do it. It is part of your professional obligation to document the information so it can be handed off in case of an emergency. So that's spot script. Enough about that. The other thing we were going to talk about is managing large numbers of spots. Sometimes you're doing a show where there are 10 or 12. I've heard of 25 spots, and that is called live, not with a tracking system at all. It can be done. I've called plenty of shows with 14 spots. But the numbering becomes really complicated because you're probably not able to quickly spit standby spots 1, 4, 5, 8, 11, and 12 reliably. So, how do you handle this? You find a way to group the spots into usable clusters, because you're not going to call every single cue to every single number. Let's say, hypothetically, you have 12 spots. In the daytime, you should go up to the spots, probably in an arena, that's likely where you're going to have them, or a stadium, and put a piece of tape on those lights. And on the light, you will put its number, 1 through 12. And in small letters underneath it, note whether it's odd or even. We're not trying to insult anybody here, but in the heat of battle, it's easy to lose track of things. Just put odd or even to help a spot op out. Right away, you've just given yourself the ability to call all spots, call them individually by numbers, or call half your spots through odd or even. But you still want to break it down further, so you'll probably put a letter there. That would be ABC or XYZ, each letter on 4 spots. So you would have 4 X's, 4 Y's, 4 Z's. So that would enable you at a moment in only one word to break out a third of your spots. That's a pretty useful number. So now you've got the ability to call out 1 in 12, half of them, or a third of them. So some people say ABC. I personally tend to shy away from that because those letters all end in E, A, B, C. And if there's an intercom dropout, it lends itself to error. X, Y, and Z are all very different sounding letters. So that's my personal choice, X, Y, Z. I think there's less confusion there. So that is how you label your spots. And then you can break them out as needed. Standby, all spots, bumping in, upstage center, where all the dancers are coming out, go. Odd spots, stay with the man in the black tuxedo. Even spots, the girl in the red dress, go. X spots, break off, pick up the 3 backup singers upstage right, dancing in front of the percussionist, go. So already you're able to control the groupings of the spots very quickly with a minimum of words, because after all, that's what we're after, getting the most amount of information out there with the fewest amount of words. If you had tried to do those 3 cues I just gave you, calling the individual numbers, good luck with that. Let me know how it works out. Had never worked out for me that way. So that's how you handle large numbers of spots. An interesting aside is that a large number of spots will also help you check your call. If you give a cue and you notice over several nights 1 or 2 spots miss it, that's their problem, not yours, if you're calling for 10 or 12 spots. But if you're calling for 10 or 12 spots and you notice occasionally that 4 of the spots or 5 of the spots miss the cue, you need to check your language. Your language is probably vague or misleading. If more than one or two operators in a large group are missing the cue, that is not their problem, in all honesty. It's ours. So work on your language there. Use it to check your own call. And finally, that brings us to the issue of trust bots. As I said, they're getting rarer. They used to be very commonplace. Now, almost all trust work is done with tracking systems. But you may encounter them, and if you run into some place that has some trust bots, it would be a shame if you didn't know what to do with them. They're called like every other spot in the world. Add extra numbers to them. But you will need to give them extra time to get into harness and to get up into their lights and to get settled. So you may want to back up your spot call by 15 minutes if you have trust spots. In addition to that, you will need to remind them, although they know it, nothing in their pockets. Remind them and then say it again. Sometimes operators get into a harness, they're getting ready to climb, and they suddenly remember they've still got their wallet or their cell phone or a lighter in their pocket, and they don't want to admit to it because where are they going to put it? They don't have anywhere to go with it. What you should do is have a space, perhaps a locking drawer at dimmers, or even your own personal bag on you, and if you're the one sending the spot ops up, where if they discover, oh geez, they've got something important in their pocket, they can surrender it and you take custody of it and you be responsible for it. Have a locking drawer at dimmers if you possibly can. But give them a fail-safe. You know, oh, you discover you got your cell phone in your pocket, I will personally take it and I will personally hand it back to you at the end of the night, just so they don't climb with something in their pockets. What I also used to do is sort of a semi-threat, semi-jokingly, I'd say, if you go up and anything comes out of that truss, whatever it is, it belongs to me. I don't care if it's a 99-cent lighter or a $400 cell phone. Now, of course, that would be a $1,000 cell phone. It tells you how long ago I had truss spots. They were still $400 for cell phones. But whatever it is, if it comes out of the truss, I own it. So I'm doing this one show in the Midwest, and a friend of mine named Animal, who later went on, by the way, to become the BA of his own local. Really great guy. Really great guy. But when he was young and rambunctious, he earned the name Animal. He was one of my truss spots. So my 4 spots go up, they assemble on the truss, I'm out at front of house, the show's getting ready to start, and shortly before I call house lights, something drops out of the air directly under Animal's spot. Man, I was mad. Animal, what did you just drop? And he doesn't say anything. Animal, this is Libby. I saw something come out from underneath you. What did you just drop? Speak up. I can't understand you. He's mumbling. I'm like, Animal, tell me right now, what did you just drop on my stage? Because you're not getting it back. And one of the other spot operators says, those were his teeth. Needless to say, I gave them back to him. He got the teeth back. All right, that's it for today. I'll come back with another one when I have some more to talk about. Bye.